feel, more like a win or more like a loss?
I don't know how to answer that. Because there's a lot in it that there's a lot to be proud of, to be honest. And then there's some other parts where you're sort of like, I just wish I had that back. That could have been slightly different, but both sides had chances to win that game. It looked somewhat a different profile to what we've normally won games by, and that's been by clearance dominance and a lot of forward half ball, and we had to do that a different way. All those sorts of numbers were against us for most of the day, but what went our way was that our effort and our intensity across the whole game remained high. And so, from a situation of a draw, you probably walk away and think, well, we should have won that. But we would have had to win a completely different way to what we've been used to. So we touched on that with the playing group at the end. And that's something to like. It's a big like, because we've gone to work on a lot of those aspects of our game. We didn't want all of it, but we had to use a fair bit of it tonight.
So does that come down to, in the end, like resilience, a psychological quality rather than a tactical quality?
Yeah, there's a bit above the head. Above the head. A bit above the shoulders tonight. Yeah, for sure. Because there was moments where we had to hold for long periods of time. So, we've had, I think the number was 15 forward half intercepts. They've had 37. I mean, that's a lot of ball in your back half, and you can't get out. So we have to go to work on that. That's obviously just to work on. But if you just look at the other side, it means we held tight, and I don't think that's been said a lot about us in the last little while. So I think that's something that we can take away and we can build on.
You can break down various sections, Michael, of the game. How much emphasis did you put on that, speaking of the players, the Lynch pack mark, and again the execution on that final 10 or 12 seconds, which was a pretty narrow window? Yeah,
I think there's obviously you got to break it up into a few different parts. There's the structure of it. So are you executing the structure that you want to go to in that period of time? So my eyes said that that was a bit of a tick. Some of the method we want to play, we could clean up, and then just there's some contests that are critical contests that you want to win, and we won some of those and we lost some of those. But at the end of the game, I was pretty adamant to the group and to the our football department that walk away proud out of tonight. It's a lost opportunity, but we should be walking out of that game and being proud of our efforts, because they risked it and they put it all on the line, and obviously we walk out with a draw, so that makes the feeling a bit different, but doesn't mean that we didn't go to work.
Where do you sit on the home and away draw? Do you prefer to go each end for 3 or 5 minutes and get a result?
There's an interesting subject. I haven't given it a second thought, but I must admit, I've got to say I wouldn't mind the extra maybe 3 or 4 minutes each way. But I have given that zero thought, apart from just how you've asked me that question. So, but it does feel like the game should continue. But that's what we play, so we'll stick to them.
How do you sum up the night of Mackay and Curnow? Mackay seemed to be really strong aerially. Probably didn't have his best kicking night, but Curnow quite quiet. But Bob's up with 3 goals. It was sort of interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, well, again, had large parts of where it was working really well and opportunities, and sometimes you get very limited opportunities and you've got to just make the most of them. So, in terms of a presence down the line and being able to take those big marks when we needed them, he provided that for us tonight. I'm talking about Harry, that is, a fair bit. So, but they're playing against some good opposition. And when you get limited opportunities, you've got to make the most of those. And obviously in H's instance, he was able to provide, some aerial support for us, but didn't quite finish off his work tonight. But we look at the game in the totality. We don't just look at it, in one particular moment.
Was that a breakthrough game maybe for Lewis Young? I think he had 8 intercepts on Jack Ringott in the first half, and I thought he was a dominant player in the first half. Lewis Young.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Look, he's been growing for the last 12 months, and he's caught us by surprise a little bit. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, but his development has been really steep, and so to be able to see him and what he's been able to do, and know when to be assertive and know when to win his battles. He's winning more battles, and he's playing against a pretty good opponent, and he was put under stress a fair bit because that ball was coming down fast a few times. We just couldn't get the ball locked in our front half, and that made it really troublesome for our defenders. And and they were copping it from everywhere at times. But they stood strong, and that's why I think it's a bit. It's a bit tough to reach for one contest. I mean, they're under barrage at times down there, and they stood tall so many times. So there's a lot to like about that.
Does he potentially give the whole defence a new look? Just, your rebound tends to come from your smaller types, like that guy that can play as a key position player, but be attacking as well as a negator.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's not your rebounding defender, but he can set you up with the ball, absolutely. But we're still going to work on what that looks like, and cohesiveness has been a really big thing for us in the pre-season, is sort of building that. And our back half has copped a fair hit in the last 12 months, so we've spent a lot of time trying to build that cohesiveness in our back half, and we've seen some really good signs. Over that period of time, having Gov back, and having him as a stable down there, it helps. And then that familiarity, they can sort of start to build that trust with each other and become that real stable defence that we're looking for. But again, I can't emphasise enough. I reckon if that game happens last year, we lose by 6 goals. So for that game to play out the way it did and still be in front and be a chance to win, and still be disappointed that we didn't get the result, that's why I say I think that shows real progress in our group.
Well, alternatively, if you played like that last year, you would have finished top 4 or something.
Well, you can look at it that way too. Geez, you're a really positive person, aren't you? So it's normally me that's the positive one. You're normally going with the negative.
I'm not made for my glasses.
Thanks, Roy.
Michael, your 2 debutants had really big starts, significant moments at the start. Ollie with the 1v2 win in defence, and Lachlan had played some big tackles. How impressed were you by their immediate impact?
I was really, really impressed with them. When you throw 2 debutants and you're aware as a coach what you're throwing them to, you're throwing in front of 88,000 at the MCG round 1, the hype all surrounded around that first game. But we really love their demeanour, and we really love how measured they both are, and they just take it in their stride. And we try to take away all the peripheral things that were influencing the game and just look at how are they going and how do they stack up against people that they're competing against. And we really like what we saw, and we like what we saw against Collingwood in the practice match we played first against Sydney. They stood tall when we were under a bit of pressure, and there were some really nice moments of composure and really big contest moments that they just stood tall. So I don't know what Ollie was thinking when Lynch was coming the other way, but he did a good job.